The animation opens with a dark and ominous battle scene. An army could be seen retreating to their safe zone as cannonballs of fire continue to drop many soldiers in the pool of their blood. The shadow of Ahriman fell over the land. They must do everything possible to protect their kingdom from Ahriman, but the attack from the enemies is too deadly for them to fight back. They try to hold off the city gates, only for it to be destroyed by cannons and invaded by deadly creatures. King Jamshid, together with a troop of his allies and with the help of the divine virtue, courageously faced the army of Ahriman. With the will of Yazdan, Jamshid defeats the Ahriman's army. He then orders that the city be rebuilt with stronger walls, in order to shield them from their enemies Ahriman. After seeing all he has achieved, Jamshid's soul is corrupted by pride, and this makes the divine force abandon him. In his quest to conquer more lands, he decides to leave his city, Jamkard. The scene switches to the birth of an infant born to a family of farmers. Just as the woman is admiring her baby, Abtin, her husband, runs in panicking. He tells her to take the child and leave immediately, cause they are in big trouble. Just then a soldier comes in searching for him. They get into a heated fight, but he is no match for the soldier, as he becomes outnumbered. They accuse Abtin of stealing, then drag him away. Just as he leaves, he warns the people of Jamkard to run away for their lives. As Jamkard has now become lawless, he also tells his wife to protect their only son Feridun. Some of the villagers do not believe Abtin stole because they know him to be a decent man. Rausbet tells his father Kava that he is worried about his brothers. He hasn't heard from them in a long time, and nobody seems to care about revealing any information concerning them. He continues by saying Abtin has just discovered that there is a way to move to the northern mountain through the palace. Meanwhile, Sharzad, Jamshid's daughter, goes over to get a report concerning her missing dad from Ashir. They had sent in almost half of the available soldiers to look for him, but no solid report yet. Instead, Ashir tells her there are reports that the ground swallowed all the soldiers during your search, and their bodies buried in the snow. Sharzad is advised to stay within the walls, as she is the only proof of Jasmine's legitimacy. Although the council believes that Zahhaak's presence on the throne will avoid war, as there are lots of evil people trying to take over the throne. The people only seek peace, irrespective of the ruler. Just as they are conversing, Ashir is summoned by Commander Zahhaak. Zahhaak tells Ashia his plans of sending more men to look for Jasmine, but Ashia sees this as a bad decision. As the people were mourning the loss of their men and their husbands, none of the soldiers that were sent before had returned, and sending in more soldiers could be another failed mission. But Zahhaak is adamant. He even made things worse by increasing the people's taxes. He tells Ashia that whoever isn't capable of paying taxes should come to work for him in his palace. Ashia tries to put up a defense by explaining that the market isn't so busy nowadays, and the people will find it difficult to cope with the high taxes. Zahhaak had already made his decree. According to him, they needed to finish the reinforcement Jasmine had started. In the next scene, Tomarus comes over to meet Cave the ironsmith at his place of work. He tells him about the recent development in terms of taxes and how you must work for the king if you don't have the capabilities to pay your taxes. The man makes mention of how Abtin was being carried away unjustly. He had worked with Abtin one time and knew him to be a good man. Tomarus tells him that Abtin had discovered a gap in the palace that led to the northern mountains, and they were working to close it up. After Abtin had spread the rumors of the gap in the palace, the soldiers came after him and pinned him down as a thief. Just then, we can hear one of the village merchants lamenting on the increase of taxation to the soldiers who had come to collect tax. He mocked the king and refused to pay tax. A crowd gathers in support of him, as they are dissatisfied with the increase in taxes. The soldiers take laws into their hands as they attack the villagers, painting their blood on their swords. Cave is angry and wants to fight back for his people. At first he is being held back by Tomarus, but he lets go and attacks the cruel soldiers. He beats them up mercilessly, which motivates the people to join him in the attack. Cave leads a protest, saying he is tired of the tyrants that are ruling him and the game they are playing. He tells his son, Rusbet, to come look for him the next day as he is going to rebel against the king. Meanwhile, Ashia explains why he was given the responsibility of writing down all the events that happened in the kingdom during Jasmine's rule. He wanted people to see that you can't mess with the divine force, and if you are finally separated from the divine force, you would go down a dark path, struck with madness and strange illusions. During a revelation, Zahhaak's father appears to him. He regrets entrusting Jamkard to Zahhaak, as he was then blinded by his purity because of how little he was, but now he is taking the light away from the people and leading them astray. Zahhaak is being told that the son of a man that he killed at the northern mountains will be the seed that will take him out finally. But Zahhaak doesn't believe that one person could stand up to him, let alone defeat him. Just then he hears an enchanting music and is disturbed by it, so he goes to check out who is playing this early. But Zahhaak is too weak and then falls to the ground. The next day, as soon as Zahhaak regains consciousness, he invites the Grand Sorcerer and then orders that his soldiers take down all the infants in the village to annul the prophecy. The sorcerer tells him that this wouldn't sit well with the people and there will be a rebellion. The people will not stay silent. He suggests that they do this in secret for the time being. But Zahhaak is furious and remains firm on his order. He commands that they carry out his plans during midnight. Just as they are talking, Lady Shahrazad enters the palace. He tells her that her music is enchanting and comes from heaven. He always hears these bad ominous tones whenever he falls asleep, but when he hears her melody, he seems to be greatly affected by it. He apologized for his failure for not finding Jamshid, but instead, Shahrazad tells him that he should be ashamed that his people see themselves to be worthless and the city is lying in ruins. Zahhaak then dismisses her. Meanwhile, Keva and some men arrive at the cellar that will lead to the palace. Just as they proceed to enter, they discover that the place is polluted with an unpleasant smell. Keva goes closer, only to discover that the stench came from corpses. The men are terrified as these are the corpses of their brothers. They head back to the village to help save their people. At midnight, the soldiers began murdering every infant in the village, according to Zahhaak's orders. During the riot, Apton's wife is determined to save her son, Feridan. When a soldier comes for her child, she fights back with all her might and runs away, but the ruthless soldier goes after her. Keva and his men return back to the village to see the ongoing fight between the villagers and Zahhaak's men. With the help of Jasmine's loyal soldiers, they fight back. Meanwhile, the soldier catches up with Apton's wife. He gets hold of her baby, but she fights back trying to save her only child. The soldier slashes her face with his sword, and when she becomes more difficult to keep up with it, he plunges his sword through her and she falls to death. Luckily for infant Feridan, some archers kill the soldier before he can harm Feridan. Keva, who witnessed the death of Feridan's mother, then picked up her headscarf and saved Feridan before he could be seen. Back at the palace, after the massacre, Ashia comes to confront Zahhaak for shedding innocent blood and terrorizing his people. When Zahhaak shows no remorse, Ashia is angry and then kills all his guards. But Zahhaak is powerful and then escapes. Years later, Feridan had grown up to be a strong and willed warrior. He always tries to meditate, thinking about the death of his mother and how to avenge her. Feridan's friend tells him that thinking about revenge all the time won't help him at all, but Feridan is more concerned about his training. He feels he isn't prepared enough, as he is still training with wooden swords. Ruzbeh doesn't like the fact that Feridan doesn't take his little training seriously. Even after being given the commander of Keva's army, he invites Feridan to a duel. The two battle it out till Feridan brings out a real sword, and then attacks Ruzbeh with anger. Luckily for him, Tamaris is nearby and intervenes immediately. He challenges Feridan again, but this time beats him up. Keva goes over to meet up with the great Shahrazad. Keva is distressed because Zahhaak and his men have attacked the town again. He wants to finally end Zahhaak for good to put an end to the people's sufferings. But Shahrazad tells him to have some patience. He knows Keva's men are ready, but Feridan, who is more important than the prophecy had revealed, isn't ready yet. Shahrazad tells Keva that Feridan is burning with a thirst for revenge, and he sees in him a mixture of pride and distress. Revenge has blinded him. He must be tested to know if he is ready. The men set out to rescue their brothers from the dungeon. Tamaris had set out the plan and what they needed to do to move in smoothly. Just as Feridan sees Zahhaak's men, his revengeful spirit takes control of him again. He rushes to attack the soldier, even after Ruzbeh tries to stop him. Feridan is filled with hatred and wants to kill every last of Zahhaak's men. Tamaris tries to stop him, saying it's not yet time, but it is too late then, as Zahhaak's army has been alarmed. They rush in trying to kill them, but Tamaris and his men must escape as they are outnumbered and can't take down the troops after them. Tamaris, knowing fully well that they wouldn't win, decides to sacrifice himself for the team with a few other men who stay to fight back. They all became heroes as they fought honorably. Unfortunately, Tamaris and his loyal soldiers die after taking out Zahhaak's men. On their way back, Feridan and the rest of the team reflect on Tamaris' death and the sacrifice they made for the team. Meanwhile, Zahhaak is troubled as he yet had another dream revealing that his time is short and the man after the throne is growing in wisdom day by day. Zahhaak is in so much pain from his dark path, the voice tells him to renew his allegiance to Ahriman and his pain will go away. Ruzbeh and the rest of the team return back to Keva. He tells him about the death of Tamaris and how Feridan refused to listen to their plans, resulting in the men dying. The men, in fear of how Feridan might ruin them if he becomes their commander, then quit one after the other. Feridan runs away as he feels he has let his people down. He wanders into the blizzard weather. Just then, he hears a woman cry out in distress. Feridun hurries to go save her as he takes out all the men who tried to harm her, but instead he is being ambushed and captured. During his time of being unconscious, Feridun has a revelation where he comes in contact with the divine force. He sees the old king Jamshid, who urges him to find his purpose and dwell in the divine force. The destiny of his people lies in his hands. Jamshid narrates his ordeal to Feridun and how he ended up on the wrong path after letting the evil spirit influence him. He also sees his mum, who tells him to be the champion of the people and not let her sacrifice go to waste. Just then he regains back consciousness. A man approaches him. He checks up on Feridun, telling him that he has been captured and dropped at Zahhaak's pit. He tells Feridun to follow him. After going through a tunnel, the old man reveals himself to be Ashia. He had run away after his last attack on Zahhaak. With nowhere to escape, he used the palace passageway to hide, and he has stayed hidden for 4 years. He tells Feridun that he needs to do something to overthrow the savage kings Zahhaak and Ahriman. Ashia shows Feridun a map that leads to the palace. He tells him to go sound the palace horn, so the majority of the guards will be distracted and rush to the palace, thinking it's under attack. This will give them an upper hand in taking out the remaining guards still left in the pit, and then escape through the cellar. Feridun goes into the palace looking for the palace horn. There he meets up with Shahrazad, and she helps him locate the place horn. But then he's caught by some of the guards. Feridun beats them up with ease and heads towards the horn to sound the alarm. Shahrazad watches in awe. Feridun returns home as he frees all his brothers from Zahhaak's pit. Ruzbeh and the rest of the people honor him for his brave act. He unites and prepares his people for battle against Zahhaak and the evil of Ahriman. The tension builds as the rebels prepare for a confrontation with Zahhaak. Back at the palace, Shahrazad begs Zahhaak to stop the ongoing war, but Zahhaak wishes for her safety, saying the show must go on. He goes to renew his covenant with evil Ahriman. He asks for more as he wants to stun his enemy. Due to his loyalty, he is filled with much more greater power than before. He transforms as 2 huge snakes appear at his back. Meanwhile, due to Ashia's involvement with evil Ahriman a long time ago, he needs to fulfill his promise by submitting to the evil. Feridun tries to stop him from completing his blood ritual, but Ashia tells him that nothing can be done again, and Feridun needs to save his comrades by leaving the city because they can't win this battle. After the blood ritual, all of Zahhaak's men transform into deadly beasts and creatures. They brutally eliminate majority of Feridun's soldiers. During the intense battle, Ruzbeh is killed by one of the deadly creatures. In an emotional scene, Cave mourns his death. Zahhaak appears in his full glory, and all creatures bow before him. He kills any soldier that tries to get close to him, as he was consumed with evil powers from Ahriman. Although the great Shahrazad can use the divine light to help take away his dark forces and weaken him, Feridun attacks with his full might after seeing what he has done to his comrades. In the most fierce face-off, Feridun is able to defeat Zahhaak. In his weakest moment, he tells Feridun to strike him, as this is what the prophecy revealed, and he wouldn't want somebody else deciding his fate. But Feridun is stopped by the divine force. On the order of the divine force, Zahhaak is tied with rope and chains, and Feridun stops all the killings as he has come to embrace the divine force. The end. If you love this video, please leave a like and subscribe.